Hi, welcome to Cilium Weekly, episode 39. Cilium Weekly is a weekly show where we cover a new Cilium feature. And in this episode, we're going to look at a feature that is coming out with Cilium 115, which is going to be released early next year, where we can authenticate BGP session. Now, you can use BGP on Cilium to connect your cluster with the rest of your network and advertise networks that live on your cluster to the rest of the world. But what we didn't have until now is a way to authenticate the BGP sessions. Right? And that's something that is now coming with Cilium 115. You can actually go and try it with the early pre-release of Cilium 115, pre-release 2. And it now supports the BGP MD5 Authentication, which let's be honest, has been around for a long time for traditional network devices. The RFC came out in 1998, and it's now available on Cilium. And the way it works at a high level is you would create a password on both sides of your BGP session, and we would create a hash based on that password and based on the source IP, destination IP, send it to the remote end, and the remote end would compare with its own hash and verify that they match, and then would allow the session to be brought up. Now, we're going to have a look at the demo. We're going to actually look into the TCP header for that hash. So let's get started with the demo. So in my demo environment, I've got Cilium running, and if I look at the version I'm running Cilium 1.15.0 pre-release 2, and Cilium is healthy and up and running. And I'm first going to deploy a BGP session without any passwords. Let's look at our pairing policy. It's a normal Cilium BGP pairing policy. We specify the local OS number, remote OS number, the IP address of the remote side, and let's go ahead and deploy it. Right, and I'm sure it will make its way into a new Cilium lab on isurveillance.com eventually. So I've deployed my pairing policy, and let's have a quick look. And as you can see, we can use Cilium BGP peers to see if my sessions have come up. You see they're established, so they're great, they're healthy. And what I'm going to do next is set up that BGP MD5 password authentication. So the way it works in Cilium is we have to create a Kubernetes secret for our password. We're going to be doing it in this namespace, Cilium-BGP-secrets namespace, and you can see the password. That Kubernetes secret will have a name of secret name, and it's going to be based on a password which is my secret password. And I would have to enable it and configure it on the other side as well, make sure that they match for the session to come up. Now I've created my secret, and now if I look into my Cilium BGP pairing policy, I'm going to use and reference that secret name in my configuration. Right? And if you try to do this, if you try to deploy your BGP pairing policy without having created a secret beforehand, Cilium is just going to ignore it and just create a normal BGP session without password authentication. So I'm just changing this. Changes have been saved, and I'm going to reapply this. Now, what's going to happen now is I'm starting to do this authentication, but I've only done it on one side. So my BGP session is going to go down. So if I do a Cilium BGP peers again, you see my section goes into active, and it's not going to come up until I've changed on the other side. So it's just, you have to be conscious of doing this at the same time to avoid a long outage. Right? Again, see BGP stays inactive, which means that the BGP session is trying to connect, but it's not coming up. So I'm going to go on my remote end, and I'm going to be using going to do it here. So go docker exec. It's my CLI BGP. So on the other side of my device is a FRR router, and I'm going to go on the shell T router BGP, I think it's 6500. Actually, before I go into this, we'll look at the configuration here. And as you can see, there's no authentication configured here. This is where you would configure your authentication. So I'm going to go and do it now. Enable K8s nodes and password. And again, we're going to be using the same one which was created earlier, which was my secret password. Oops. Okay, now what I shall see is if I go back and do show BGP Cilium BGP peers, the session should hopefully come up. Right, it took a little while, and now the session has exchanged the MD5 passwords, and we can see that the session is now re-established, and I've got some password. Now, to validate that there was some kind of now authentication or verification of the identity, we're going to look inside the packet. So I've logged on to the Cilium agent, and I'm going to go and capture the BGP packet, which are sent over TCP over port 179. And we're going to look into the TCP header and see if there's anything new there. All right, just takes a few seconds. And now we're going to use Termshark to look inside the packet. So what's new here is if you look into the TCP header and we scroll down, we get two options. We can now see the TCP MD5 signature, which again has been added with you see the digest here, which will be different with every packet that being sent. If you look here, it will be again different. And so again, this will apply for every single BGP packet. You will send an MD5 digest, a hash that would verify, that would help the other end verify the identity of the sender, and it just helps you to avoid a situation where BGP packets can be spoofed. So that's MD5 on Cilium. Now, what's also interesting is there's actually the replacement, long-term replacement of MD5, which is called the TCP authentication option, which is RFC 5925. And again, it's been around for quite a long time. You see, the RFC was actually, created in 2010. Only a handful of network vendors support this yet. And the reason it's not been more commonly used and distributed is because it has not been available on the Linux kernel. And it's actually coming out in the next version of Linux kernel in 6.7, which means that from then on, we will be able to see it deployed in the likes of FRR and GoBGP and eventually Cilium. But that's one of the reasons we don't have this on. We started with MD5 on Cilium, and eventually we'll see the next generation, I'm sure, being introduced into Cilium. Now, that's all for today. I hope you found this session, this video helpful, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.